but the champion is just so wildly uninteresting to watch. Like visually, it's boring. Like the actual play pattern is boring. Like everything about it is just horrible and boring. It's so terrible to watch.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode 27. If you have not gotten your tickets for the LCS Championship in Georgia, then get them now. Saturday, October 3rd and Sunday, October 4th. The link is in the description. Go grab them now. Sale's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Meteos may or may not be there.
I might actually be there.
Oh, okay.
It's possible.
There you go. A little dive meetup. In Georgia. All right.
I was going to say, this is kind of a dive meetup right now.
Yeah, but this will be a dive meetup in a different city.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know if that's ever happened
big.
before.
That could be big.
For us three in particular.
Not in Georgia.
Not a gas arena.
Not at the gas arena.
Should be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to it. And playoffs coming up pretty quickly. But we have a new patch that just came out, 26.16, with quite a few changes. You guys were both bonding over your rage over the Graves changes, so maybe we should start there.
The Graves changes, which, by the way, are not even Graves changes. They will not show his picture on these patch notes, but don't be fooled. He's broken as hell. He was already OP, and this guy benefits so heavily from a specific line in here where, Meteos, let's go straight to the jungle monster.
A couple lines.
There's a couple lines. One is the AD carries, all AD carries getting a bunch of magic resist, and they decided, you know what? Graves, you're included, buddy. So you get extra magic resist. You already had so much armor. Let's get a little extra magic resist to go with that. And then Meteos, what makes that even better? The jungle pet changes. It's also going to increase his clear, which was already insanely strong. Good Graves players will keep up the passive by using the dash. So you keep up your true grit, and then you can just burn down camps even better because the amount of pet damage that comes from armor and MR got boosted as well. So his picture's not on these patch notes, but I'm banning him for sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I've pretty much banned him since he got buffed a while back because he's just so boring to play against for me. Obviously, people like him. That's cool. But yeah, I think these changes definitely are going to help Graves a lot. And because for the clear speed, obviously the intent behind the changes to the jungle pet is to help tanks out, especially in the later parts of the game, because generally, I think a lot of tanks have a fine early clear. Well, okay, not all of them. Rammus is sad the whole time, but champs like Sejuani has like a pretty good early clear, but then you kind of, Maokai is not bad, but then in the mid game, you sort of fall off because not only do you clear your camp slower, but you just move across the map slower. So, if Graves is banned, then I ban Talon because he is the most guilty offender of just, if both junglers are clearing top to bot, Talon is done by the time you do like your first two camps, and then he's at your Gromp.
Yeah, he can still
afterwards. It pisses me off for sure. But so this change is just trying to help out those people who want to play tanks in the jungle. Yeah. Yeah, should be cool. Graves gets a little bit of help from it, unfortunately, but yeah, it is what it is.
It's the double dipping is kind of crazy too, where, like we said, these are not Graves buffs, but because they classify him as an AD carry, he gets benefit from the AD carry buffs, and then apparently that he's also classified as a tank because he has so much armor and MR from his passive.
He does it all.
That he also benefits from these tank buffs. So he's benefiting from AD carry buffs and tank buffs, basically.
Yeah, he's feeling good. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm not going to see how it goes because I got him permaban, but other people will see how it goes.
Some other pretty interesting ones. Obviously, we're also looking at the systems changes that were directly to supports. We talked about these when Froxon initially made his tweet, which I really like discussing as and the entire Bounces team philosophy on it. But they actually did implement quite a few of the line for line changes that he was talking about then. And they went through with a lot of them, namely this, the moving up the reduction in experience and gold for supports that are not in lane from 25% to 33%, as well as the level, cut off from that by the time it turns off, will now only turn off at level 5. So that one went through, as well as, the other changes that we already talked about with AD carries getting the extra magic resist added to them to try and combat this dual threat of roaming supports and mages bottom lane, which are a little bit intertwined. And so I feel like since people already had started to drop off a little bit on that strategy, especially with the mages bottom lane, I think this one actually will be significant. I know that comeback experience still is in the game in the same form. So even if the support does leave lane and they're getting penalized more heavily, there is still going to be comeback experience that you can rely on. But moving up the deficit from 25% to 30%, 33%, and then the levels going up to level 5 does, to me at least, feel like it's fairly strong. So I think it will have an effect.
I mean, it definitely could have an effect. It's like if you're in a world where someone is sitting in lane and you're roaming, and then you show up to the team fight and they're level 6 and you're level 4 or whatever, right? Like that's a really big deal, right? Like I don't know if it's actually going to be that much more extreme, but the fact that the restrictions go all the way to level 5 and it used to be to level 3, if I recall correctly, plus it is more extreme restrictions, feels like it could create like a pretty big deficit.
Especially since we've already seen a lot of times, people have been picking, say, Leona into Camille.
Yeah.
Camille does roam very heavily. The Leona players have been staying in lane a little bit more to hit their level 6 first. And even the 6 versus 5 is such a huge difference that then you get like a little bit of a power swing there. But Camille got hit in multiple ways too, with the Halo Blades and then directly in stat line. So I think Camille's support is got kind of headshot here in multiple changes. She's getting shot from multiple angles.
It is a lot of changes directed at Camille, because I don't think many players or Riot, balanced team members were super happy with the gameplay around Camille, because it's kind of funny as a novelty. I remember when she did this in jungle in season 9. Remember when they first did the crab change where it spawned at 215? So the meta was you played Camille or Talia, you took your red and you just ganked and then did crabs and you were just totally fine. Yeah. And so it's kind of funny, but playing against it is just so unchill. You're not playing League, you're just playing who's getting ganked more simulator. So I think it's pretty good they're taking a swing at Camille, the early passive shields going down, because I think they don't want to hurt top lane Camille, which is sort of tough, right? How do you nerf support Camille while not nerfing top lane Camille? Because top lane Camille's been pretty bad for a while. It's not really good at all. So she is getting a lower cooldown on her W. She's getting more mana. Her passive is going to have a lower cooldown, even though it'll be less maximum health shield until later levels. So we'll see how it goes. I like the Hail of Blades changes as well. I always saw that as a pretty big reason why a lot of these patterns are happening, because Hail of Blades usually is just, it's rough playing against. I've been doing a lot of top lane lately when I flex with my friends who like rank 5s, and Hail of Blades Tryndamere is so disgusting. That is just the worst gameplay experience. He just spins on you, crits you 3 times. Camille's doing the same thing everybody bought, but it's like 5 hits from her double resets. It's it's not
Meteos,
great. It's not great.
This was the last thing that I was holding on to, still playing some Rek'Sai games. And now I'm going to drop her completely.
I don't think it's that bad for Rek'Sai, honestly.
The early game is a pretty big difference. The early game for her, like your first ganks and stuff like that, it seems to me like I am going to feel it a lot. 30% attack speed difference from 120 down to 90.
It will be a nerf.
See.
It will be a nerf, but at the same time, I feel like Rek'Sai's Hail of Blades ganks are also pretty stupid, right? Like when you're laning and a Rek'Sai flashes on you.
Meteos.
Yeah, but it's okay. If she ends up too bad, she'll probably get buffed in some other way. That's usually how these things go. So I think overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think a lot of the patterns that came from Hail of Blades, just one-shotting people in the very beginning of the game, is not super chill to play against. So it will actually scale better now. It has more bonus AD ratio on it. So it's not a total loss or anything like that. But yeah, it should help with the case of the supports just going crazy with it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, Camille's also getting nerfed through the Sundered Sky change, right? And that's also like another additional nerf because she always rushes that. You do get a bit more base HP, but it's going to have less healing on it than it did before, which to me is like the strongest part of it. It's kind of interesting because I feel like we have this patch coming in with the fleet buff, with the Berserker Greaves buff, with like, you know, these are supposed to be system changes with the ADC MR changes that are supposed to push, you know, mages out of the meta in bot, or at least like help make it more equitable or whatever you want to say. But it is interesting because I just feel like LPL and LCK, it's already been gone, right? And so now I just feel like it's probably dead, which I still think is a bit of a shame because I do like the variety. You know, even looking at just like picks of the week for global now, like pre these changes, the top 6, 7 played are all AD carries.
Nice one.
There you go. I didn't even mean to do that. And then there's Ziggs, and then there's a couple more AD carries. So like out of the top 10, there's just Ziggs, right? So it's already like pretty AD carry dominated. And so I do think we're basically just not going to see it, or we're maybe going to see Ziggs situationally, and that's like it. So to me, that just makes pro less interesting. But
as far as more interesting, would you like to take some mid lane AD carries to make it? Does that make it up for you? You specifically have been calling for more AD mid lane threats.
Yeah, I think
does it satisfy you?
So I do think I would love to have both, right? That's my like greedy me. Yeah. But I do think if you can get ADs into mid, like I don't think AD carries in mid are that fun to watch, but I think the reason that I've wanted ADs in mid is for variety there, but also because it unlocks AP junglers, right? Yeah. And pro meta has just been super jailed by this AD jungler, AP mid meta, because that's like all we've had the entire year. It is crazy how bad jungle is if you look at the actual like variety of picks. It's just AD tier listing. That's only junglers that are played in AD for the entire year, and nothing has been changed about that, which I find surprising.
That's what their goals with the Sundered Sky, and then changes to the pet damage that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So those two are kind of their attempts at getting more variety in jungle. And then I thought you were going to be excited because you love Tristana mid, and Tristana also got like the magic resist mid. So I was like, ooh, maybe he's going to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Tristana mid for a long time, but this is like before it was ever even in pro.
Before it was cool.
Actually, just because it was like. It was just my favorite AD carry to play, and I was like, oh, it's actually just good mid too, right? I feel like once something like that becomes meta, you know it's going to get nerfed, and then you're like, there goes my pick. But yeah, no, I think that'll be cool. I think as far as like my pro viewing experience, like I like playing Trist. A lot of champions I like playing, I think are horrible to watch though. Like I think AD carry mid lane, watching it, Corki Tristana, like that stuff is not fun to watch. I think those are basically like Azir level things. I think when you get like a really aggressive, like when we've had mid lane Lucian, to me that's been more interesting because it's more like, you know, he has to kind of like ride that line. He has to push his advantage and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what AD carries we get.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I'm curious to see how it develops, because with the 3MR added to a bunch of the AD carries, the goal was to help them against the bot lane mages that were taking over. But at the same time, League is like a game that affects everything, right? You can't just buff MR for AD carries bot. I mean, I guess they could, but that would be super weird and it wouldn't make any sense to. So I am curious if we're going to start seeing AD carries show up mid, like you were talking about, since even though the variety is interesting, I think the 2024 meta of AD carries mid, just, you know, rushing tier 2 boots that are defense with ruby crystals, that was so boring. Nothing happens. And I'm actually a fan of the mages bot because I think in a lot of the recent pro games I've watched lately, the games with AD carries bot are rarely boring. With mages. AP carry, with mages.
They fight a lot more, usually.
Yeah, usually there's just a lot of fighting going on. Teams don't play for this guaranteed scaling win con. They're not just trying to make nothing happen until they have 4 items. So I think it was a lot of fun to watch, but obviously if bot laners are miserable because they can't play against mages, then that's also not great. So I hope just whatever happens, it's just going to be an action-packed meta, because that is the thing I will always push for, is just any champions in the meta, any kind of stuff that just makes fights happen. I want bloody games, just people running at each other, getting kills, dying repeatedly, because that's just awesome.
So have you enjoyed this meta that we just had, where supports are just always, they're creating action? So you're making this wish, and he said,
okay,
rewind the clip 15 seconds.
No, I did say that. I did say that, and I will admit, I think it has been pretty fun to watch, but obviously, like anything, there's limits. There's limits, and I think if you start breaking the fundamentals of the game of, hey, I want to be able to play my laning phase without Camille just flying in and killing me. I blow my flash, I'm chunking 10% HP, my lane's pushing out, just my Janna's sitting bot. Yeah. GG's, guys, I guess I can't play.
I also think there's
limits to these things.
I also think it's totally fair to have different preferences for playing versus watching, right? Yeah. Like, I fully admit most of the stuff that I like to play is horrible to watch. I like to play scaling champions. I like to play Cassin. I like to play Kale. I like to play Nasus. I like to play like all these types of champs and Kindred and whatever, right? And like that for me is really fun. When I play support, I'm the opposite. All I've ever wanted to do is roam and fight, right? And jungle, I'm kind of like more that way too. But like that stuff is not that fun to watch. It's non-interactive, and doing really well in a Cassin or a Kale lane is like going even and not dying, right? But it can be fun to play. But that's why I also am kind of of two minds with all this mage bot stuff, because I don't like playing against it when I play bot, but I do like the variety in watching, right? And it's just hard for the balance team because you can't have everything. Like,
yeah. And at the end of the day, you do have to balance for people playing the game.
Yeah.
And so that's it seems like we'll see where these end up landing, but you know, I have liked watching the variety and watching the action for sure. But especially personally as a jungler, anything to like rein in these supports, I have felt like the supports, they took my job and made it cooler, and they have like, you know, less responsibilities and they get to, you know, have all these free ganks and free time and stuff. So
it looks awesome though. Playing support, it's just the time of your life. You are a jungler who doesn't need to farm.
Yeah.
You can get all the vision you want. You can just run it down as much as you want to, because I swear the Camille supports we've seen in Pro lately, they are some of the worst champion mechanics I think I've ever seen in Pro play, as far as someone who's willing to pick a champion in Pro play while having almost no proficiency on the champion. We see people just whiffing everything, going in, dying repeatedly, but here's the catch. It doesn't matter at all, because you can beat...
works when people are down levels.
And just her baseline effectiveness. She's got Ignite, she's got Hail of Blades, she'll almost one-shot you, even with just stacking ruby crystals and stuff. So it has been, when you see that kind of thing, you have to pause and think there's probably something wrong here, because Camille is a pretty high skill champion. She's skill expressive, and you have people just fumbling all over themselves, going 0-10, and it's like, hey, I can still E-flash R this guy, and be pretty tanky and do good amount of damage for you know, how I've gotten to this point. So yeah, not great, but it's kind of funny to watch them faceplant perma.
I don't know, did you see Jad did a presentation on it? Not that it, you know, like not that it's the only place the info is or anything, but he was talking about basically like it was just kind of like a bunch of tables of data showing how much reduced gold and experience you get for killing people based on the discrepancy in levels. And it's, I think basically off the top of my head, if you're like 4 levels down, you get like, you're worth like 60% less.
Yeah.
Like you're worth so little, which is one of the things that really enables, I think, a lot of this roaming support meta, is that it's like, you're supposed to be getting punished by getting less experience, but like, it doesn't even matter, because like you're saying, your kit is so baseline effective that you just show up with Hail of Blades and ult, and you go in and whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, I died on this dive, and it's a 3v1 and I died, so it's 1-for-1, should be good for that guy, but like, he gets so much reduced experience in gold that I feel like you're not having anywhere near that same level of punishment for deaths from supports, and I think that's kind of where that feeling comes from to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we also have talked so much about the comeback experience and slingshotting, because supports are in a unique position to abuse it, because it is best abused by the single lowest level players in the game, which are always going to be supports, because a lot of the comeback experience is based on you compared to the average level of your opponents, because that's what determines the level of the minions. And so that has led to a lot of the kind of the abuse cases. That, plus, to me, one of the biggest parts is that when you die, you still gain experience around your dead body for 10 seconds. So even if you are a super squishy, low-level Camille, and like Meteos is saying, it doesn't matter. I E-flash in there, I get the stun, I ult on the enemy AD carry. My body's on the ground when, you know, enemy, like, if the enemy top laner, level like 20 top laner dies over me, then, you know, you can get like a whole level sometimes as the little dead support down there. So.
I mean, the other thing with supports too, I mean, this is all part of the same, you know, same thing, is that it's like, supports do not even need gold or XP to be effective in a lot of cases. Like, they're built to be poor and to be effective at low level. Like that's how so many of the kits are designed, right? Like they don't have incredible scaling. They don't require huge amounts of gold. So many of these supports are just baseline extremely effective just from having your basic skills, right? So it's all kind of part of the same thing.
Yeah. Camille got triple headshot though.
Yeah.
So
she should be out of
I think that abuse case is definitely gone.
The Nasus changes are interesting. We were talking about this a little bit. I know I saw like an initial preview. I think it was like maybe like a tweet or something. They were considering giving Nasus mana, which I was like, wow, okay, those changes could be really crazy because Nasus can be pretty mana gated in the early games. I do think these changes are they're obviously a buff. You're going from 3 to 4 stacks on monsters or minions and monsters and stuff, I guess, like small minions, and then
not monsters, because the monsters is nerfing, because so they're nerfing jungle, so stacks on monsters is going down, minions is going up.
Oh, but I thought it was on little monsters it was the same. Am I confused? Or
it's going from basically there's just 2 breakpoints.
Large monsters is going supposed to be 10, but everything else is going 3 to 4.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So
maybe I just said that poorly, but like obviously it is an increase for top lane, right? It's supposed to be a jungle nerf. That is the intent. I'm kind of just curious. Like I was trying to think through it of like how many more stacks you'll realistically end up with, in an Nasus game. Obviously you're going to get 2 less per cannon. You generally are going to put a lot of effort in stacking every cannon early on in the game before you have spell ranks and a lot of CDR. You cannot realistically get anywhere close to every minion, right? Without just like, if you go Q start and you're just standing there, you're just going to lose the wave so bad. So I'm kind of curious. It's like in like a 500 stack, like kind of normal-ish game, is this like plus 100 stacks? Is this plus 150 stacks, right? Because if you're thinking about it like in the old terms, 3 stacks per little minion or whatever, and you have 500, and then I don't know how many cannons you're getting realistically, 1 every 2 waves. So like every minute or something you were getting plus 12, right? Like 20 minutes into the game, you're getting, I don't know, 20 cannons plus however many minions. Those are all your stacks. So it's kind of interesting to think about. And like, I know you had pointed out, Kobe, that the win rate already went up 2%, but I guess I'm interested if that's like a day one thing, just like a people just playing a champion that's already stronger, or what's kind of going on. Because it just like in my head, it doesn't feel like it should make that big of a difference. When to me the weakness of Nasus is always like the early game, and then in late game, it's less about can I do enough damage and more like can I access my target. Yeah,
I think these kind of more gradual changes are oftentimes more difficult to judge the magnitude on. And I do know there are some people on GAT, I wasn't involved in it, but people were running tests for Nasus and seeing how much this was going to affect him, which is how they land on these numbers. And whether or not it's correct, I know there was like a lot of effort put into it. And I don't know. I feel like Nasus is just one of those champions that I hate playing against so much because, again, okay, I would rather play against Nasus than Tryndamere because I was complaining about that earlier.
What about Vayne?
Oh, that's my ban.
What about Quinn?
Wait a second. How many champions are you banning?
Yeah, Graves.
Well, Graves I'm jungling, and Vayne if I'm top. Playing against Vayne top is the worst experience, actually. Anyway, but Nasus, it's bad in a different way because I just get so bored. I'm so bored against him. He's just sitting there stacking, and then he hits 6, and he just wither presses R, and it's like, oh, guess I lose, no matter what. So, yeah, I don't love playing against Nasus, but I guess a lot of people like playing him. So,
I mean, he's a simple champ, right? He's just one of those kind of like classic ones where you just want vibe and stack.
I am more okay with their idea of let's push Nasus, buff the top lane and nerf the jungle. Because if he's in top lane, I know it like will lull Meteos to sleep if he's playing against him in lane, but it does feel like there's more things that you can do against it.
He's not an oppressive laner, which I think is good because
maybe that's the feeling.
I think there's a lot of value in certain champions that have really strong late games having that super bad early game. And we've seen a lot of examples of champions who get jungle buffs and then they just dip out to the jungle. And then all of a sudden that early game disadvantage doesn't mean that much.
Yeah.
Because Bel'Veth is an example of a character who has really, really sharp scaling. Like she's 60+% win rate in
since the changes,
long games.
Insane.
Yeah. So she has insane late game, which is getting nerfed this patch. Her health scaling is going down and her attack speed on ultimate's going down because she was getting really high attack speed. If you could get through the game without falling critically behind, you would have a really good chance of winning. So she was definitely too strong. And so Nasus, as an example, has obviously not the same degree of scaling as Belva, because like Azael mentioned, he does kind of just get kited later on. But I don't know. I feel like it would be the same thing if all of a sudden Kassan was a jungle. And I think or Kale, right? I think it's a meaningful part of these champions to have to endure a really bad laning phase. And then it's fun for the people who are playing against these really weak early game champs. Like you have a chance to dunk on them and run Ignite and kill them and stuff and snowball really hard. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of people just being able to avoid their entire weakness by just dipping out into the jungle. I think it's not the best.
It is always funny because I feel like Nasus, sometimes people like do really have that thought process like, okay, gotta absolutely slam the Nasus. And I feel like it's sometimes easier to survive those lanes than it is when someone just like picks something that also scales, but it's just a better champ later. Like if someone's just playing like, I don't know, GP or like Ornn or Cho'Gath or something, that kind of just, you can't really kill them and they can't kill you, but they kind of just scale and are more useful later. So I always find it interesting the kind of like different approaches.
You reminded me, I feel like there are some champions that are like critically underrated right now.
Give me one.
I'll give you 3.
Zach?
I'll give you 3. I mentioned the Zach one last week.
Yeah, I've been thinking Zach top.
But another one, well, also Zach jungle is critical.
And you can play.
And Gangplank with the Deathfire touch and going the full crit build is crazy scaling, super high win rate for solo queue. The other one, especially with these jungle pet changes, Lilia, I've been playing. I know has been hard to get AP jungles into pro comps, but I'm thinking with the AD carry magic resist and with a couple options, like if we had actually any players that dedicated time to Gangplank, it's not a champion you can like pick up and drop whenever patches change, and so it takes a while for like good Gangplank players to put the time back in and be really good on it. But I think that carry is really, really strong. Lilia and Zach, I think, are both very, very good and benefit both doubly from the HP buff and the AP buff on the jungle pet damage. So both their clear speeds are going to get better. Lilia's already was quite good. Zach's was definitely a bit slow, but he'll definitely.
Yeah, he's a little sad.
He'll definitely be happy with these pet changes.
Yeah, GP, he's an interesting one because he's kind of the opposite, I think, of the thing I was talking about with Camille earlier, where Camille is like, you can kind of do whatever and you can never fall behind, but he's so hard to play. I think I don't know if he's the hardest champion in the game, but being able to time his barrels, like, there's Solar Baka, and then I don't know who the next guy is, but you watch him play or you play against him, this dude is so insane. He'll drop a barrel and then shoot like on your face. No, he'll time it better than you, and then also set up the chain after he parlays it. Yeah. And I go into an ARAM with GP and I'm like, I'll get one of them this game, and I don't get any the whole game. I don't know how he times it so well. It's really crazy, but I think GP's awesome champion for that reason. He's super skill expressive, but at the same time, a lot of those matchups are rough as hell. And if you just miss one barrel, all of a sudden, good night. You're just getting run over the whole game.
GP is interesting because I feel like when I had a streak where I was playing a lot of GP, and I felt like I got very comfortable in the laning phases, and I felt like I got really good at the laning. To me, the part that was like really, really hard was timing the barrels in late game fights when AD carries and stuff have so much attack speed and there's multiple range champions. Like if you weren't barreling from a brush, I find that really hard, where it's like you're setting down a barrel in the midst of a team fight and like 2 range champions just click that thing, trying to time like when you're supposed to queue, and taking all that into consideration is hard as hell. But it is a really cool champion for that reason, because it's like it's this interesting mini game that has such a clear reward, right? Like if you can actually pull it off.
Yeah, like I say, we don't see it a lot because it takes a big time investment to be really good and have that big impact. Yeah. But it is like has very good solo queue win rates versus some meta blind pick champs like Renekton and Ambessa, two of the most picked and often blind pick top laners, as well as even Vayne. And of course, these are just win rates. These are not, I'm going to win my lane. This is, I'm going to scale Gangplank, and then I'm going to one-shot crit people on your team with barrel chains later on. But if someone does put in the time investment on Gangplank, I always think it's really cool to watch. I always think of like the bin moment. We have some crazy international performances from professional players that have put time in on the champion.
Yeah, it was always one of Impact's best champions, I felt like, too. Yeah,
I mean, GB's super cool. I really think it just comes down to if I was a professional top laner, I would not really put that much value in learning GP because it takes so long to get good enough to play him. And you're living in the fearless world where you have to have a huge champion pool. So you can't just invest all your time into GP. Because if you are good enough at GP to pull him out, people just ban it against you when they're going to pick something that he would be good into. So I totally get why we're not seeing more of him, just because I think he's just that hard to execute. And he also he always runs the risk of getting snowballed on extremely hard, even in his better matchups like Ambessa or whatnot. I think a lot of the fighters right now, fighters are eating good, especially in solo queue, like the Rivens with like Death Stance, Endless Hunger. And any of those matchups, if they get ahead of GP a little bit, he is like, you can't get away from.
All right,
like, he can't get away.
Last few patch changes are all buffs as well. You're talking about fighters in the top lane. Gwen and Kennen both got buffs though for some AP options. The Kennen one looks quite real and easy to use because the straight up more power on your ultimate. And that's always fun for the big moments. I think those are, talking about pro plane, things that are fun to watch. Big Kennen flanks are always, there's a lot of anticipation build up and then, good payoff if they can make those work as well. So, I'm always a pretty big fan of Kennens, especially because I feel like you are rewarded if you don't go the Zonias and you do go for full damage and big ultimates. And those are the ones I always do like to see. The other, Azir is in there with the buff as well, with the Kennen and the Gwen.
It's getting close to Worlds. It's the Faker buff. It's the slated for Worlds, the Faker buff.
Yeah, it's Azir's, he's a funny one. He's he's too much pro play, nerf him. Oh, nobody's playing him. Let's buff him. Yeah. And then back and forth. But yeah, it is what it is. I think the Kennen one's interesting because I think he is a super cool champion, but he just has such a hard time dealing with stuff like exhaust and knockbacks because even if he can get lane advantage, which, depending on how he's tuned at the moment, like he can be really good in some matchups. People will pick him into Renekton and do some kind of like hybridish early game stuff and get big lane leads, but it is just really hard to deal with getting exhausted in a team fight. Even if you somehow do get the nasty flank flash another team, all it really takes is like one ability to nullify you. So that is a hard part for Kennen.
That's always going to be, I think, the difficulty of a champion that has like a clear telegraphed like high point. You know what I mean? It's like, this is where all my damage is coming from. I even often have to like flash into your team to be able to deliver that damage. I'm exposing myself for delivering that damage. And then you press lock it and exhaust. It's like, okay, what now? So it definitely can be really tough. But I also just like, I like that kind of design where it is that back and forth of, like you have a lot of power, you have a way to answer it, and it's kind of trying to who can set it up better. Like I find those kind of things more.
Okay. I don't see the back and forth though. I feel like it's just Kennen gets exhausted and he has no fourth. He's
the back and forth to me is that people need to be able to like put pressure on your teammates and stuff as well, right? It's like if you have multiple points of pressure and other people who are diving with you, like Nocturne presses R and goes on your AD carry's head, like are you going to exhaust him or are you going to exhaust the Kennen? Like you can draw it out in multiple ways. So to me, that is kind of the back and forth is that it's like, maybe it's not just Kennen who can do all these things. He can't like rocket belt in and then get exhausted and flash out,
So like, hey, I know I just ult flashed in, but I'm gonna stop my ult and finish
out.
The rest later.
TP out,
like,
buddy.
No,
but I mean, like your team can be putting on pressure and doing that, right? Like, so I do think there is still power in that personally. I mean, it's kind of like the discussion of what is also more interesting to watch versus play and stuff too. Like I actually really liked, to be honest, playing and watching the old Corki more with the old package. Like I actually thought that was really fun because it's like it was like a clear high point and it was super powerful and like it lined up with objectives too well and then they had to nerf the timing, right? But like
watching a good Corki int,
it was fun. And I mean it was like high risk, high reward. I actually thought it was super cool. And then like new Corki is obviously more consistent, but it's like there is no point in the game, and honestly any pro game even, where I've watched a Corki and thought, wow, that was cool. I literally don't think I've ever, with new Corki, thought there was a cool Corki moment since it's been changed. Not once. I literally can't even in my head picture what a cool Corki moment looks like. Like, I don't even have a single Corki highlight in my head. Like, can you
Really?
guys think of like a really cool Corki play? You're like, damn, this Corki play was sick. I'm not saying you can't make a good mechanical play, but the champion is just so wildly uninteresting to watch. Like visually, it's boring. Like the actual play pattern is boring. Like everything about it is just horrible and boring. It's so terrible.
I don't feel as strongly about it. I don't feel as strongly about Corki, but
for a pro play, I think it is the least interesting champion that I see in pro play.
Really?
Yeah. I find Corki wildly uninteresting. Like the way it was played mid lane, even when it's played bot lane, even when the Corki's having a good game, I just don't think it looks interesting.
Has there been like a big one sniper anything? Nothing has made you feel anything besides
Nothing
boredom.
sparking joy.
Nothing sparking joy. Only boredom. You
Wow.
see this ugly plane out there on the rift, and you're thinking, put any other AD carry out
just
there.
presses E and right clicks
The
on
most
someone.
boring. Wow, that's
It's horrible to watch.
It's an interesting thought experiment. You have to come up with now a list of
But
other.
neither of you could list like a highlight in your brain either. Like this is
I don't have any. I think for most champions, I wouldn't immediately have a highlight.
really. If I say Lucian, you can't picture a Lucian highlight right now in 1 second. I don't believe you.
I mean, yeah, double
Okay, but
dashing
what
into
about
Victor.
Varus? What about Varus? You can't see like ruler
Baron
right
Steel,
now,
Baron Steel,
or
yeah.
a Baron Steel, Guma Baron Steel.
Guma.
What about like Jin? You can't see a sneaky W right now, stealing something. You can't see a sick Jin ult.
I think there are some, but
What about Zeri? You can't see 100 pentakills. What about
like,
Jinx? You can't
I don't
see
know about
sick,
that.
You can't like picture a sick Jinx ult. Like every AD carry has that moment. Ashe, the cross map.
I think
Look at
Corki
the
can be
arrow.
played pretty aggressively. I think he can go in
So
like
what's the
Valken.
highlight? Give me the highlight.
I mean,
wait,
I don't have a
highlight.
specific
Exactly.
one.
Hold on, I have a specific one.
How is that like a lot of champions don't have specific moments, or you're saying one from 12 years ago?
I have one.
Okay.
It's the Berserker one when he got the pentakill in mid lane for LYON and he outspaces where they versus Team Liquid, I believe. It was Yawn at the end.
yeah,
Hex
that was
optics.
the Doko Anivia game.
Hex optics. That was what it was.
It's not Corki, it's the Hex Optic.
That's the Hex optics. That was a
bro.
great Hex optics
All right,
highlight.
bro.
But that is a Berserker on Corki
That was
highlight.
a great Hex optics highlight. I agree with you.
I know this
That's
is a late
crazy.
request,
That's
but
crazy.
can we get that replay?
But here's the thing: it's like I'm not ever saying
video,
there obviously have been tons of impressive Corki plays, but I do think it is not hard to picture. You're saying, oh, lots of champions don't have highlights. I feel like if you talk about most AD carries that have been meta, almost all of them, you can picture a highlight immediately.
Yeah,
I can picture more lowlights for a lot of them because I would rather watch Corki than Jin. I think, especially lately in pro play, people would pick Jin,
Jin
build
is
Doran's
weak, but
helmet.
I don't think visually
But-
it's uninteresting.
Like it's debatable, but I don't think Corki's boring personally. I think he's fine.
I think the point of reducing the parameters for extreme plays, though, for Corki from the rework is definitely true. You could have more extreme plays with the old package, and
That was sparking joy.
And he also had.
Package was trash, dude. It was so trash.
It's
Nothing
so fun
happened.
to watch.
Nothing happened except the package every game. It was so bad.
His parameters for like extreme plays definitely have been reduced for the kit. You know, it's like the Fox bomb's fairly straightforward. He has a dash. And the rocket, like the ultimate, it's still long range, but I guess we haven't had like a real big one rocket like having a huge effect like they kind of
Big one
used
is
to.
the coolest thing for sure.
That kind of differentiates Corki. Yeah. I do think the Berserker play was really, really nicely played, but there's
going to be many examples of nicely played and like incredibly impressive individual plays for Corki, but I do think it is telling for me at least that I feel like almost every pro AD carry I can just like close my eyes and see a highlight, and Corki I just find Corki really
All right, Neela.
Neela?
Yeah.
Okay, well Neela's not playing
Okay,
very much. I said
okay.
pro play AD carries, like things that are meta, like things that are actually meta. I think are
Corki's not meta.
Let me look at how
Corki
many
has been
Neela
meta
plays
many
we
times.
Yeah, but I'm stirring the pot.
You are stirring the pot.
Definitely a fun one though. Anything else on this patch that you guys wanted to hit? Because we hit pretty much everything on here. The last thing, some changes to the items. You did lightly touch on the Sundered Sky nerf.
Yep.
And obviously that is going to have wide sweeping repercussions because almost every jungler used it and rushed it first, and a decent amount of supports like Camille were also rushing it. So Sundered Sky change is going to be significant with reducing the healing proc for it. It is a change that does make it kind of less unique as an item, you know, to the point of like making things safer and kind of less unique, less really big, high, spiky moments. But it's also necessary because the item was just so ubiquitous. It was just everywhere. The buffs to me to Black Cleaver, because I always use Black Cleaver on melee champions. So to me, it's just buffs, and I'm getting 5 extra AD. Seems like plenty of bruiser champions are going to have options with Black Cleaver. It was always a pretty good item on quite a few junglers as well. So I feel like AD bruisers are going to be fine. They're going to have other items they can use if they don't like the new Sundered Sky where it lands.
Yeah. And I do know one of the goals with the Sundered Sky nerfs is to try to shake up jungle meta. But I'm not super sure what it's going to look like, because I do think one of the reasons that jungle has sort of remained the same for a long time is just the way pro play works, the way you draft. Usually you're always going to blind pick jungle because the counters don't matter as much. It's also fitting into comps, like we were saying. There's not a lot of AD mids, and if you early pick a least jungle or something, that's just trolling. You're going to like have a scuffed team comp, and they'll just pick things that aren't vulnerable. So I don't fully expect the meta to shift off of these changes, but I do think it's sort of like a nudge saying, hey, maybe other stuff could be viable. Maybe this opens the door for other things to get played. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there. Lilia and Yone comp, like in 1, 2, 3, you can pick both the Yone and the Lilia and have you know, some secured dual threat there. I think they're both pretty good right now. Lilia, of course, you always want it if the enemy is showing like some sort of early tank, then it also helps a lot and gives you some more value. But
Sivir highlight.
Sivir is definitely one of the more boring ones too. I'm not gonna lie.
She can't be more boring. She can't be less boring than Corki.
I think she unironically is less boring than Corki.
Wow,
because she actually at least has to.
What
like,
did Corki ever do to you?
She at least has to like get in there and auto attack, right? Like you're doing something.
I love sitting in the middle of this right now because as I like bring up Lilia, I can see the twinkle in Meteos' eye.
I was looking down the list. I'm thinking Corki can't be the most.
He's staring at me, but everything's past it. He's just waiting until he can bring up the answer of the Sivir.
At least to me, when Sivir spell shields something really cool, I find that interesting.
Full body chills.
Yeah, yeah. More so than Corki. Corki with his Gatling gun.
You hate pauses where the Gatling gun's going off. It is traumatized. That is pretty bad.
We're gonna have a debate session on our next.
The fans agree. The fans agree.
Special episode of the dive.
Maybe
it's gonna be Corki Azael versus Meteos Sivir. Whose side are you on? Leave a comment. We're gonna take a quick break and get into the LCS games right after this.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it.
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh no, not already.
Welcome back to the dive, driven by Kia. It's time to talk LCS.
You mean Sivir and Corki?
Of course. Well, see, no, we're not. We're just talking about Corki is boring. We don't need to compare. I want to know, do our fans, when they're watching, do they have a Corki highlight? You got to admit it. I'm right. When you go through these 80 carries, you got to highlight. Corki, struggle.
Leave some comments in the YouTube. I also know that they're going to clip this out and make it our social for, TikTok and Instagram as well. So leave comments there too. We're going to tally all the votes.
Yeah. Corki's boring. What can I say? So week 3 just happened. DSG played C9. That was the first one of the week. C9 did win, but again, this is one of these series where they drop another game to a projected bottom team. It is the extension of the Rise winless streak of, I think it's 9 games in a row now. Loki has still not won a game on Rise in his career, and it is kind of funny that happened again after obviously all the kind of attention on it. I feel like this game when they lost, it wasn't really as much about the Rise. It wasn't like those crazy realm orbs or anything like that. But
it is funny with the record.
It's
funny with the
super
record.
funny. It's
And
super
it's in
funny.
everyone's brain for sure now.
I'm really looking forward to it now. Before coming into this week, I was saying, C9, don't pick Rise, because if you look at the rest of the series, they won games 1 and 3 in 23 minutes and 25 minutes. They Omega stomped, disguised a team that is struggling extremely hard. I think beating Loki's Rise was their first win of the split. So now I'm looking forward to it. Like, I want to see more of that because it's exciting, you know. But I think in his defense, public defender perspective here, their team comp was really scuffed. I would not want to play this really ever. You were playing pretty much all of these champions that just don't scale very well. I did not see the vision with this team comp. They were playing Ryze, Ezreal, Renekton, Skarner. None of these champions are real good late game champions. I feel like when you have Ryze, you want to use his early game pushing and moving, and maybe that was the idea with their comp, but they just couldn't make it happen. And then when it comes to actual team fights, you just kind of get outscaled by everybody. You need a really early soul to make this work, and they could not get it done.
Yeah, to me, it was actually, to me, I was really excited for DSG, even when seeing the draft, because Surdy, when we were so excited and Surdy first came into the league, it was because he was rank 1 with spamming all these range top laners, namely Vayne. It's like, this is maybe not the Vayne guy, but he's a Vayne guy.
He's a Vayne guy.
And he's a top lane Vayne guy. And it's such a good Vayne angle here into Renekton and Skarner. Like, you can really dance around them. And then for one of the first plays of the game, for it to be support Shen roam topside, and Surdy got 2 early kills on the Vayne, I was like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be the DSG game. And then it wasn't as straightforward. I thought, maybe Surdy like completely rolls them the whole game. It was a little rocky, and they had to go back and forth. They actually lost the lead for significant portion here to Cloud9. Cloud9 did a good job like retaking it, and then DSG were able to finish off and win in the end with it. But I was quite excited to get Surdy onto a top lane champion like this, because that was so much of a lot of the hype, and everyone's just like, solo queue doesn't really translate to pro play, but it does, like, exactly in this scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I found myself feeling very bad for Thanatos in this one, because
anyone who plays
it's like
top.
you're Thanatos, you're the best top laner in the league, Renekton, your best champion, and then you're just up against a Vayne top with Exhaust who's rushing tank items. It's like, what can you do?
And gets a support Shen gank really early.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even him who died, right? It was he was bottom, and then his team swapped, and then Vayne gets 2 kills, and they're like, "Ooh, Thanatos, I don't think we can land against him anymore. That's all you, bud." And I'm just like, wow, he's feeling real good about this one.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a sad time for him.
It was. I mean, I feel like this was kind of an interesting game because I do agree like that it's a really, really good Vayne angle. I think it can be very difficult for C9 later on into the game. But I also felt like this was one that Blabber and Thanatos did not really have great games. And I feel like, watching some of the team fights, it felt like they were kind of struggling to find when they should go in. There was times when Thanatos was flashing in for a stun, but like no one's really there following up on him. And Surdy didn't get QSS until like basically the end of the game, right? And they had no Mikhails, so he wasn't playing Cleanse. So like it did feel like, as much as yes, there are obviously a lot of difficulties here, if they could coordinate, they could almost one-shot him. I remember at one point, Loki did like an EW on Surdy, like not even a Q on Ryze, and he did about 70% of his HP with an EW. So it's like, if they could get to him, there were ways to kill. And sometimes you'll see where, people like when Vayne pops ult, they just kind of kite back and just try to like play it like that. It can be difficult, of course, but I did feel like there were ways they could win this game. Like they obviously clawed back, got into a pretty good spot, and then, it did kind of go pear-shaped. I will say though that as much as there have been some struggles from C9 in general, Tactical has really been impressing me. I thought Tactical, even in the loss, was playing super well on this Ezreal game. I was really, really impressed with how he was playing. And I feel like just in general, individually, he's looking really, really good. In game 1 on the Casio, I thought he played really, really well. In game 3, he also played a really good game on the Caitlyn. They obviously, like, I think this one, game 3 was kind of Lions committing crimes, so I'm not going to lie. But
they didn't get a kill.
Yeah, but Tactical still played really well. So I was impressed across the board with that. And I was also really happy for DSG to be able to actually like lean into this strength, to have a lot of success with it. And then I will say, to immediately go from this like Giga Vayne carry game to blind picking your top laner Cassante, I thought was like a little surprising.
Oh, that was super weird.
Yeah.
That was really, really weird, especially with the rest of the comp. I thought that was absolutely bizarre because they're picking Victor bot and Nivea mid. Neither one's particularly lane dominant. And then you're going Cassante blind. I didn't really understand that.
And he did play the lane really well. He was actually up CS on Thanatos, and Thanatos had counterpick. Like, he played it well.
Yeah.
But of course, it just doesn't really matter. Like, there's like the rest of the game was basically over before he was even involved on Cassante. I mean, he had one death and it was like near the end of the game. Everyone just kind of got slammed. But I just thought that was weird conceptually to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with Cassante blind. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, like as far as a comp. But I just feel like when you are a massive underdog in a series like this, and you have a player who's good at carries, and you have a player who just had a total pop-off game, I guess I just would have thought they'd just try to like double down on that and give him another carry, try to play towards him, see if you could kind of continue to like snowball that a bit. But instead they ended up decided to, put him on Cassante, blind pick him, kind of weak side him. And then this game, I was honestly just so disappointed with how Lions played it. Like, even from the level 1, you're playing against Caitlyn Karma, right? They're standing in between you and the minions. Like, that is just, you're going to have to take your lumps in a matchup like this. You're playing Rel. And then at level 1, to go for a crash down aggressively, I think is like crazy. Like, the chances of this actually hitting are so low when you just walk directly straight at them and then go for it. And then when it misses, he had to pot, lost 60% of his HP, and had to recall at level 1. And then Sajed's in a place where now you can't even try to fight for any minions, right? And your support isn't there to even be able to like Targon's minions under tower. And then he had this super bizarre one where Sajed based later and was TPing back. And while he was TPing back, Lions was literally just strafing back and forth. And it, like, I get that you want to like take some space and threaten and engage, but when your AD carry, like when your or AP carry, whatever, isn't even there, there's no threat of getting engaged on. And so literally Tactical's just sitting there autoing him the entire time. He's just strafing back and forth. And he lost 50, 60% of his health and then tried to ward over the wall, but like clicked on himself. So just like warded the tower, lost all his health, and had to recall again. And I'm like, what am I watching here? Like, this is crazy. If you're into a double range matchup like this, you need to keep your health high so you can threaten it all in. That's the only pressure you have. That's the only recurse you have, is being healthy enough that if Trundle comes down, you can maybe win a 3v3, right? Like, that's how these matchups are kind of built. So I thought he super griefed Sajed. It wasn't the only thing going on in this game, but like seeing that level 1 was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much covered all of it. That going for a W in Israel in this matchup, it's just weird because even if you hit both of them, let's just say perfect world, somehow you hit both of them when you're not tanking minions, I feel like you still just lose. They just right click you and you die.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm not a bot lane expert, but by the looks of it, neither is he, because that was just super sketchy. I don't know.
Generally in bad Rel matchups, people like use the crash down for the shield to farm under tower, right? Like, that's kind of like what people use. They wait till it's pushed in, then they target a minion, and as they're getting hit by like Monster Q or whatever, they crash down back. And you just kind of use that as bonus HP to prep minions and Targon stuff. But yeah, no.
Yeah, you're waiting for your moment where your Trundle comes and you can get a pillar behind them, and then because of the pillar, they're gonna have to react in some way, and then like you're gonna be able to create something there, get some summoner spells or get some pressure that way. But without that, you're losing ground the whole time. And then I think Cloud9 did a very good job snowballing. Yeah. I mean, we say, Cloud9, like they lost another game to one of our bottom 2 teams, but in the games that they did win, they were both stomps.
Yeah,
they stomp sandwich here, where they stomp first game, lost the second.
What's in the middle? What's in that sandwich?
It's okay.
You don't want to eat that sandwich. It's kind of like last week when you were like, you don't want to smell those games. You also don't want to eat the middle of this sandwich.
How's this for a stat? DSG got more kills on Loki's Rise than they got in games 1 and 3 on everybody combined.
That's crazy.
They had 4 kills in games 1 and 3, and Loki
stat.
died 5 times on Rise.
There you go.
That's sick.
There you go.
I mean, Cloud9 clearly. This is kind of like why I know some people I've been talking to have like lost all hope in Cloud9 and think they're doomed. I still have hope because I do think that it is still pretty quick since they've made these roster changes, and they have had really high highs, right? They've had some lows, losing the game to Dig and Disguise. Those are supposed to be the bottom 2 projected teams, right? So if you're playing for a title, you would expect those would be pretty comfortable series. But like you said, they dominated game 1, they dominated game 3. We can see what the high end can look like. And so I think, you're hoping that Cloud9 can continue to polish off some of these kind of like rough edges and that the talent is there for them to get it done, but the season goes by fast, right? We're going into week 4, and then week 5 is doubleheader week, so they're not playing that week because they're going to be playing a week 6, so they're going to be playing the doubleheader in Mexico at Lions home grounds. So they have this week. After this, they have week 6, which they're going to play 2 games, and then week 7, and then we're in playoffs, right? So there's only, even including this week, 3 more weeks of play for them before playoffs.
In a weird roundabout way, I kind of feel better for Cloud9 seeing them in this form, this split, just because their storyline of them just running the regular season and then fumbling is just it's just not working out for them.
Can't be true because they're not running the regular season.
Exactly. So I feel like they will have a better trajectory because I think a lot of the mistakes they make are kind of weird looking ones that could come from being on different pages or communication stuff. And so sometimes you just gotta like iron out the kinks a little bit. And I think yeah, that I could totally see them getting it together and just because we've seen it before, right? I think LYON with this roster in the beginning of the year, they looked really sketchy early on, and then they just had a sick playoffs run, and they've been great since. So I think I don't think that we should rule them out in any way.
Yeah, we continue to see the same roster lineup. We have never actually seen them in LCS use the 7-person lineup either, which to me, it actually does make me feel more confident about them and their like process of improvement because at least you're keeping stuff the same, and so you can try and build on that.
Yeah.
Although we do keep getting pros from other teams on content, and they're all like justice for APA, and like APA was playing well and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I wish that we got like more more inside content too out of Cloud9 on that situation. But at this point, you just have to assume it's like this is what they are this roster is what they're building, and they're going to try and perfect the synergies here because it was a fairly late year change, and so you got to focus everything on making cleaning up all the mistakes and focusing everything.
I mean, it looks like a 5-man roster, right? Just 2 people got replaced. I think that's pretty honestly what it looks like.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think that's probably a better thing for them to be committed to something and putting all the games into that because you don't have that much time. It is going to be funny though, because then if they do in playoffs swap someone in, it's going to feel to me like that's hitting the emergency button. Right?
Yeah,
that's not like a planned thing. If you play the 5-man roster the whole way through, if anyone else comes out, it's like, oh my god, they think the sky is falling. So it'll be interesting to see if they do stick with it. On the Disguise side, I will say I think I've seen some people with some pretty doomer takes about them. Obviously, they do have the promo relegation tournament coming up, but I do think people are not taking in consideration the strength of their opponents, right? Like in a lot of these matches. And it's like, it is a very different world to play against some of the better teams in tier 1 than it is to play against the teams in tier 2, right? And even against FlyQuest, they had like a pretty big lead and probably should have been able to win that game. Against, Cloud9, they did win a game 1 against Shopify. Again, they had a really big lead. It's like, these are games that in my mind, I think they get across the finish line pretty comfortably against tier 2 competition. So like, I personally am still feeling pretty confident that Disguise is going to defend their slot.
Yeah, I mean, they still got the rest of the season before they're there. And I would agree. I think, to me, their biggest issue with this team just seems to be their bottom lane is having such a hard time in the laning phase, which then, obviously, bot lane's the most important one to win because you stack the dragons. And I feel like every time I look up at the dragon counter in a DSG game, they're just trying to defend Soul Point. It's just, they don't have control, and they're just trying to fight back to not let the other team get an early Dragon Soul, and so they're just fighting uphill game the entire time. So it is a really hard hurdle to overcome for sure.
They're at 20% Dragon control.
Not great.
Like they're averaging 1.3 a game, which says is 20%, 20.6% of the total Dragons in the game. And to your point, as far as early game stuff, Dragons at 15, they're averaging 0.14. So so basically just never getting early.
That's like getting one dragon all season or something.
It is probably like they probably got one dragon before 15 minutes so far. So yeah, I mean,
that's hard.
It is really hard, right? Because so much of the game is played through bot lane and through team fights around dragons and stuff.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to them defending their spot. I mean, last time they did it, they kind of smashed as well too. It's kind of the same thing where people were like, "Ooh, getting a little worried. Are they gonna lose their defense in the relegation?" And then there was not close. They defended very successfully. So we'll see this time around as well. I do think too for Cloud9, I'm looking really forward. We'll get to the matches for this week, but now them going up versus FlyQuest is, that's going to be a big challenge because you're talking about the strength of schedule that we've seen from Cloud9 so far and them having played Dig and DSG already. Once we start to see them go up the tier list, up the size of dog that they're playing against, going against FlyQuest is one of the teams that literally said, we're going to Worlds. And Cloud9, they're of the opinion that they're going to Worlds. And I don't think either FlyQuest or Cloud9 are like, we're going instead of TL and LYON. They're probably like, we're going
with them.
With those two teams because they're better than us, but we're also going to go.
Yeah.
And so in order to make that dream a reality, you got to beat each other.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be super hyped this weekend when we get Cloud9 versus FlyQuest because Cloud9 have not lost this whole year to FlyQuest. And that is with, obviously, APA and Sven. Now, if they lose with the change in the roster, you better expect some drama. So it's going to be very interesting here. See if Tactical and Loki can keep it together here for Cloud9 to be able to.
Well, we could talk a little bit about TL versus Fly then that happened, right? Because that's kind of looking forward a little bit to it because it is interesting, right? This is. FlyQuest and C9 have kind of had different schedules, right? C9 obviously played DSG and Dig, and FlyQuest on the other side have already played TL and LYON, right? So they played the two best teams, the teams that look like the best by a lot. And coming in, I think most people were thinking that FlyQuest would beat LYON first week because it was post MSI, it was Armeo subbing in, and they lost that. They lost again against TL as well. They didn't win a game in either of those series. And so it's like, okay, you are clearly not better than TL and LYON. Now, like, where are you, right? Like, where are you kind of in the rankings? And I think that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out. It's like they beat Disguise 2-0, they lost 2-0 to LYON, they lost 2-0 to Liquid, and now you have this match coming up against C9, where we are a little bit uncertain exactly where the middle of the pack stands, right? I think it's these are like really important matches for building confidence going into playoffs because everyone's goal is going to be to make it to Worlds, and maybe teams really improve and things change, but as it stands now, everyone is going to expect that two of the three are kind of spoken for with TL and LYON.
Yeah, definitely. I think I feel like I shouldn't be questioning TL anymore because they played so well this past weekend against FlyQuest. Coming into it, I was saying maybe FlyQuest can win because they showed some promise, but TL just looked so good. I think we're seeing Quid back in form because in the beginning of this year, he was pretty slow to ramp up, maybe just not used to the new team environment and all that, but he was just going so insane against FlyQuest. He was absolutely everywhere on the rise. And this was right after watching a lot of Rises lose, right? And so then we got to see Quid. Actually, I think Saint won before this. But anyway, most Rises are doing really badly. Most Rises are doing really badly. And then Quid was just absolutely everywhere. I mean, that game one for Gatkos, again, I've been playing too much top lane. I'm just a top lane sympathizer now. And Gatkos is like, he's in this Ignite counter pick. His jungler ints to Olaf in a failed dive. And then Olaf is just freezing the wave, just tanking like 6 ranged minions, something that's so illegal if Gatkos has any help whatsoever. And then Ryze just roams up and kills him. And like flashes on him and kills him. And so I'm just sitting there being like, this guy needs a team. He actually needs a team.
There's
stuff you can do.
I don't want to skip over the dive attempt, the gank from Gryffinn on Morgan, because that's a critical pivotal moment where Gatkos is going to get a gank from Gryffinn, and we have the replay here. Morgan under tower as he's getting pushed in, and after Gryffinn goes for the gank and they fail the gank, he decides to go back in for a Q flash under tower, and misses it. And Morgan starts smiling as he sees this, flashes, gets the kill as well. So it's like Gryffinn kind of failed that gank twice. Because the first attempt at the gank, unsuccessful. Okay, walk away with your life, Not the biggest deal. Okay, you guys, failed. You took some tower damage, whatever. But then he tries to correct it by going for the Q flash with Pantheon and misses. And then Morgan flashes on him and does get the kill that you're talking about. And now the Olaf has, the upper hand in the matchup here, which is completely changes everything. The entire landscape of this game. I mean that one was crazy, and Team Liquid were all laughing and smiling on comms and stuff, and
the comms replay was great, man, because it was Morgan didn't say a word in the whole thing. He's just locked in, pay attention. But his whole team, it's one of those moments where I guess people were walking back to lane or whatever, because everyone was commenting on what he's doing. And that is the best feeling in League.
That's funny.
Is when you get a 1v2 or you make an outplay or whatever, and people are watching you, you're getting pinged and stuff. They're all hyping them up in the comms.
In the early game, it's a matter of there's not even that much happening. And if you know your top laner is getting ganked, as a jungler for your top laner that's getting ganked, you get a little sinking feeling now. You're like, oh no, he's gonna be mad if he got ganked by enemy jungler and dies. But then you see the kill feed pop up and it's Morgan has slain Gryffinn, and you're like, oh, we just won so much of the early game because you as the jungler, you're not there, so you get to make a positive play yourself, plus your top laner got the kill, and the enemy jungler is going to be off the map for a decent amount of time. So
double buffs and first blood.
That play alone was big.
Okay, wait. Backing up a little bit, I want to hear you guys' opinion on, do you think this was a good gank? Because I was watching with Sneaky, we were co-streaming, and we were debating if it was a good gank to go for or not. And I was saying that, initially I thought it was a good gank to go for, and Sneaky thought it was just super troll. So what do you guys think? I changed my opinion a little bit after watching it, but
my view was that it was a decent gank to go for, but I felt like Pantheon should have started.
Yeah.
I thought that was part of the problem, is that Gakkos went a little bit early. He started with Counter-Strike, and I feel like if you're going to go for a risky early game dive with two melee champions, you need to both be standing on this guy's face and both hitting him as soon as you pull our aggro on the tower, because damage is relatively low before buys, right? No one has any buys. It's just a jungle pet and a D-blade. And so my view was, if they could have had Gryffinn walk in and start with point blank stun, and then you're both autoing him, hitting him immediately into the Counter-Strike after that, I think they would kill him.
So I think that would be a better scenario, but looking at
They're fighting the wave.
Morgan does a good job and he forces their hand. Morgan clears the minions.
But they still had range ones, no?
So Gakko, they're outside of tower range.
Oh, yeah.
Those minions are for sure outside of tower range. So Gakkos is oh, Morgan's clearing these. We're not going to have anything to tank the tower. So I feel like it's a good play by Morgan. He focuses on the minions. And he was just doing that anyway. Because I don't think they have any wards that saw Pantheon coming over. I guess he could know that, it's full clear time.
Yeah. They probably had an idea he was pathing toward them.
I kind of wonder if you could just stand behind him, though, and just wait a second for the minion to come in and then go. But I guess it depends.
Yeah, it's tricky because if Wukong full clears, he could read the situation. There's a lot of times in those situations, you kind of get a feeling from how Jax is playing. If he's just pushing faster than you think he should, and Pantheon could be there, then maybe Wukong says, I'm just going to recall here, not take crab and walk top. And then if you do the delayed dive, you get countered super hard.
I think they knew where Wukong was, but but watching it back, Karma was heading there anyway. So delaying it wouldn't have worked regardless.
Yeah, and so it is a super interesting thing, because at first I thought it was a good play and it was just messed up. But I think the fact that they couldn't even force Morgan's flash in the initial dive, looking back, I was like, that's probably not that great, because like you said, Morgan just played it well and forced them to start it early in a really awkward timing. It wasn't like this huge stacked wave that was coming in that he would have to completely back off. So, and then on the other hand, if Griffin's Q flash just was aimed a little bit better, they would have killed him. Yeah.
Or honestly, even watching it back, if Gryffinn just flashed in after the Counter-Strike hits, and maybe he kills him there too.
Yeah, I mean the exhaust was super rough. The exhaust
was really big.
Yeah, it was close either way. I don't think it was super definitive one way or another. But it is just, in these matchups, they're so volatile, and one little advantage can go so far.
Yeah, and then that wasn't even the landslide of the early game. Actually, didn't even come from him. It came from Quid, kill bottom lane, then kill top lane, and the top lane follow-up you're talking about with the Realm Warp and Flash, and then kill mid lane. Dude. He ganks his own lane after killing top lane, ganking top lane. Then Quid is like channeling his recall, and then he sees, I forget if it was support or jungle, walk up mid lane, but his support or jungle walks to mid lane to get the wave, and he sees enemy mid laner there, and he's like, well, okay, I'll just gank my own lane and go gank quad from the other side.
That play mid, I don't know, that was just so well played by TL, because obviously, from Quad's perspective, he shouldn't be dying like that. So what happened was Core walked mid and he was just freezing the lane, which is just an annoying thing supports do. If Quad backs up there, you're going to lose a lot of CS on the next wave because it's frozen. And so obviously he's going to try to start hitting Karma to unfreeze it. Karma just starts rooting him, and then Quid ults in. And I'm sure Quad had some kind of idea that Ryze could ult on him, but it was the fact that also an Ezreal ult flies in and hits him while this is going on. Because I'm pretty sure he could flash out if it was just Ryze Karma, but it's the fact that it was that with the Ezreal. It's just such a well put together play. And obviously Quad could have probably avoided dying here, but I don't hold it against him that much. It's pretty unlikely to die like that. I think it was well played by Liquid.
Yeah. I do think it was well played, but when I'm watching it too, the wave was already on the tower before Core JJ walks up. So he could have just left. Yeah. But it is one of those things where I think it's a bit of column A, a little bit of column B, right? Because I feel like the wave was already going to...
Actually, yeah, you're right. Looking back, it had crashed. He went for the plate hit, so that was for sure greedy.
He just autoed the tower. So to me, that is like the greedy sin. Right. Where it's like at that point, I think you could just leave once you have the wave in.
That's true.
Because I agree. But that is like one of the worst feelings is when... like enemy mid roams, gets a kill, and then you're like, okay, what is my mid laner doing? And then
he's dying too.
Mid, and then he doesn't even respond to where you know the guy is coming from, tries to auto the tower and dies.
But I think that's also where the greed to auto the tower comes, because usually when you get push, like if you're the top laner Azael and you just got ganked by my mid lane opponent, and you're like, oh, all right, what is my mid getting then for this guy
better
ganking
be a
me?
plate.
Yeah, and I'm
you
like,
feel pressured to
don't
carry.
Worry, Azael, I'm pushing the wave in. I'm gonna get to it, and then I get.
Oh, I see. So it's a top laner's fault that mid laner roamed and then you died.
I could feel your anger at.
But it's tough.
It was a really depressing game for Gakkos. His build was Trinity Force into Seekers. When I saw that, and then I think he used it immediately and then picked up cooldown boots on his next push, I'm like, this guy is so unbelievably poor. This is just has to be the worst feeling game ever.
Gakkos had a rough series. Like I don't think it's just on him, especially that game was tough because the dive went wrong, and then he gets roamed on and killed, and then he's getting like pushed off his tower and all these things. But even in the other game, he got solo killed by Morgan, and I thought that was his fault 100%.
Yeah.
He's super greeted, and it's like this moment where Morgan is playing a Bessa, hits 6, and the wave is pushing towards him, so you can just wait at your tower. You're going to probably miss some experience, miss some gold, because Morgan's obviously looking for an all-in, and Gakkos tries to greed and stay in range of the XP to get 6 himself, but he was still 5. But he walks up, then he gets hit by the ult without flashing it, then flashes after, dies. And that one was really rough. And I mean, in this entire series, he got 2 KP. Like, he had 1 kill, 1 assist, and I'm pretty sure it came basically at the end of the second game as well.
Yeah, it was.
Because he had no kills or assists throughout that game after the Jack game, which he was 0-5-0. And so that one was a rough look, I thought, for Gakkos after like one where it's like, that's tough. Like, things were out of your hand. But then this one was one where Morgan punched him really, really well. And I feel like Morgan's been playing great. I mean, TL across the board is playing great. So it's like you have got to be on your game to have a chance against this team. You can't afford mistakes because TL are just destroying people. Like, they are all looking good individually. And so there's no easy way to beat them. Everyone has to play great.
I loved watching Game 2 from TL. I thought that was a level of domination that I haven't seen that in a while watching any kind of game. They just had such a clear game plan of, we're going to play Alicia Nami, which we haven't really seen much of any Nami since the mandate changes.
Yeah.
And it was just from the very beginning, they had Quid come bot level 1 in the bush, and it was matched by Quad, so they didn't really get anything there. And then Jose level 3 ganks them bot, and it was just non-stop pressuring bot. Masu and Cryogen got completely rolled, and they probably could have played a little bit better, but there was so much pressure on them in one of these lanes that
3 and 4 man over and
it's tough. Our Lulu's super squishy before they have ults and stuff. So, and they were just getting pressured nonstop. I love the way TL was playing it. It was so unbelievably aggressive. And it wasn't just their bot lane. It was like anytime Gryffinn would come down, they're invading all of his camps. They're pushing him out. It was just super well played by Liquid. I thought that was just an incredibly clean game.
I even think that the drafting pivot was really smart for them because people are starting to do, sometimes people like into Melio Lucian, which like when you see Lucian, you just kind of assume it's Lucian Melio. People are doing stuff like Cog Lulu and this is kind of just another variant of that where they're like, oh, it's Lucian Melio, like it's great at disengaging engage champs, but like you just pick a scaling enchanter that scales better and you're just getting like, you're going to win out in the team fights later. That's kind of like the general thought process is you can just go even in lane and then be more powerful. But then they pivot to the Nami, which has more laning power, gets them the prio in 2v2 more easily. And I thought how Jose was playing was just so good. Like I've talked a lot about how Core and Jose are playing together. I think they're doing an amazing job, but normally you don't think of that when it's like a Nami. But even in this kind of a game, Jose is willing to die and to go behind the tower and to like, put that pressure on because even if they kill him, Moss is losing all of the minions. He's just watching minions die. And there was times where he's like chain trying to recall and they're just like walking into the tower and interrupting him over and over. And it's like, yeah, like you said, I'm sure Masu and Crygen could have played aspects of it better, but like, what are you supposed to do? You're just getting completely, stomped by Jose and Quid, it felt like.
Yeah, and so Team Liquid, I think holistically looking at their improvements and how they got here, because it's been a really, really sharp improvement and steady since MSI. Leading into MSI is when I felt like we first started to get the change from Quid specifically. He had this interview where he talked about, I've had this mentality change where previously, I thought all the teammates that I had on this team were so good that I didn't really push myself to like be like, oh, I have to carry, I have to be Quid carry. And then he changed his mentality, be like, no, even if my teammates are good, like I should be trying to also like super hard carry, be, like MVP Quid. And so that was like the first thing. And then into MSI, we've had, interviews with both Morgan as well as Jose, as well as Quid himself again on the analyst desk. And they talked about how MSI changed them with the practice environment where before they were going into scrims just to win the scrims. And just kind of like playing them, right? And we just get better by playing games and then like winning the games and, everybody just improve on your, whatever. Now they're going in and they have objectives for all their scrims, he said, where they're specifically trying to practice some area of the game, a setup or, early game or, late game or some specific idea in mind for improvement, which I always think is really beneficial for practice, like practicing more with a purpose. And then also, they combined that and they said that there's been a big shift in Team Liquid's environment where now they are like playing more freely and kind of like having more fun, laughing instead of being very critical about mistakes. And so you see all of that come through, especially for Quid, who's a guy who's talked about how the stress affects him a lot of professional league and playing on stage. And we've seen the variance both in international and in like some of his first splits here in North America. For him to say like the environment is just so fun now on Team Liquid, all these things coming together gives me the confidence to project even further for Team Liquid games into the future. Yeah. So that's why I feel so secure about predicting Team Liquid, going to be one of our world's representatives, going to be able to keep up this level of play.
I mean, Jose just seems like he'd be such a good person to have on your team. Like
their vibe seems so good.
Yeah, like Jose seems so unfazed. Like he is winning, losing. He's laughing. He makes a mistake. Like my bad, haha, and then just goes out and makes a good play. And like I don't know, he just seems like he's just having fun. You interview him about how he feels about it and how he keeps calm in these moments and stuff. And he's like, it's just a game. I'm just having fun.
What I really like, I think why I am fully bought in now is that I haven't heard a word about their scrim record. This season. I haven't heard a word. I've just heard they have good vibes, and I see the way that they're playing. Yeah. That speaks volumes compared to. And I think, like you said before, they were trying to win scrims. Like that was their thing. But in reality, it's like just that doesn't really matter if you can just get good at certain aspects of the game. Maybe they practice a lot of like, let's just pressure bot as hard as humanly possible and see what happens. And that's pretty much what they did on stage. So it's great stuff.
The last quote from Jose that I loved when he was on the analyst desk was when they asked about their communication, because they were talking the whole time about like Dignitas's communication. They're like, "Oh, what's comms like on Team Liquid?" And he was like, "Well, some of the times, like they just speak Korean, and then I just vibe and do whatever I want." It's not like it's good to have him. He's having fun and having good mentality. He's like, yeah, they make their calls in Korean, and that's okay with me. I see a good play.
I'll kill the Gromp over here, no problem.
I thought it was really good though, because sometimes it's hard to fit in if you are a different language, member on a team that is speaking Korean. We talk about those things all the time when some of these teams are made with a lot of imports or like, oh, good players, but how are they going to coordinate? And
They just say, hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah, just have Jose on your team where he's like,
just vibing.
How you gonna communicate? Don't have to. They can talk. I'll just do my thing.
I speak League of Legends. I'm having fun.
Yeah, he's smart.
We can ping.
Shopify, SR and Sentinels. That was a match that we kind of highlighted as a pretty important one. And most people I spoke to were predicting the Sentinels side just ever so slightly. People thought it would be close, but most people were kind of on the Sentinels side. Shopify did win, and Fudge is having some more really good games. I really think he has had a crazy glow up this split compared to what we were seeing from him on stage in Split 1 and Split 2. And it's a really important win now for Shopify, given that it's like this is based on everyone's expectations. Doesn't always end up that way, but based on expectations, this is their closest opponent in the standings, right? And that is going to give them a good chance of going into week 6. I think they have a relatively easy opponent this week. They're playing against Dig. If they win this week, they'd be 3-1. I think going into the week 6 week, and you're already in playoffs at 3-1, right? Like obviously they have a lot of tough teams left to play, but still, it feels like things are moving in the right direction for them.
Yeah. So one thing that I was pretty disappointed in from Sentinel's perspective is that before this series, I might have even mentioned it last week, but I feel like Zinni, they are just full on throwing Band-Aids at this mid lane situation.
Yeah.
And he's going to play Galio. He's going to play
Anivia
and then Annie, right? It was like going into the games, I was saying, what is he going to play besides these champions? And they didn't need anything besides those champions. I think that is such lazy or disrespectful prep from Sentinels, because pro players love doing the thing that says, no, we don't need to ban his Galio. Like, I'll beat his Galio. Don't even worry. Like, I can stomp his Galio. But it's like, if this is the only thing that works for their team, why are we giving it to them? Mm-hmm. So I really did not like that, because I think Zinni is a point that people could be targeting, because whether it's his individual performance or just the way that the team's playing around him, it's not working for them so far. But it does feel like he has some champions that just have that like baseline level of utility.
Yeah. Who,
even if you're not doing great, you're still doing something. So I think if teams don't give him that, they're going to have a lot harder time on Shopify. But so far, it's enough for now.
Yeah, it's one of those philosophical choices where you're thinking, oh, okay, this guy's not really a threat, so we'll throw some bans here at contracts and Bvoy, because like, we'll ban the other, like the people that we are worried about on this team. But to your point, if someone is a weakness, then maybe you should just keep pressing that weakness until it becomes even easier to exploit.
Yeah.
And take away some of those kind of safer, just initiation, like utility style champions that you're talking about. And I definitely completely agree, because I don't think it's slowed down contracts at all. Some of these jungle bans, like, going through here,
Fearless best of 3 game 1 jungle bans. We saw 5 against Jose as well. That is useless. People are like, yeah, okay, we're gonna ban Xin, Vi, Nocturne, Jarvan, Nefiri, whatever, and they're like,
the ban
okay,
is Poppy a lot.
I'll play. I'll
flex Poppy.
I'm just naming random stuff, to be honest. I don't remember what the bans were, but it's like, but the point is, okay, all 5 bans on him. He's gonna play Wukong.
Yeah, he
totally
got
fine. You know, like you can't ban a jungler out in game 1 of Fearless.
Contracts played Nefiri, Jarvan, and Wukong this series.
Super meta stuff.
Which of those was he unhappy getting? Those seem very meta to me.
Yeah.
So super weird stuff. I think if I was playing against them, I would absolutely target the weak point. I think that usually gets you the most mileage, right? Against teams, it's a lot of the time at the highest level. If a team has a weak point, that's a lot easier to win through than trying to go through like your own team's like one point of strength or whatnot. So yeah. But Shopify, they have been playing better. I think Fudge is looking better. Impact, struggled a little bit against him this past weekend.
Yeah, I think does anything is definitely going to be a big question going into playoffs and just in general, because it does feel like they're just in win now mode, but it felt like they were in win now mode from week one. And the reality is it's like either Zinni has lost confidence or his team has lost confidence in him. Otherwise, you just don't put your guy on the same picks every single time, like these same utility-based picks. And I asked Fudge, we had Fudge and Contracts on the couch for the analyst desk after an interview, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, you guys have been doing this a lot. Like he's been playing a lot of Galio. Like, is that a concern kind of like going towards playoffs? And because the best 5 fearless, either people are going to be pre-countering it or banning it, or you just, even if you get 1 win, then you still have to win 2 more, right? And Fudge said that he didn't think it was like necessarily like a mechanics thing or a skill thing for the mages. He just thinks that it was like a knowledge, basically a knowledge gap that Zinni like necessarily can't play those other picks as well because he's like lacking knowledge. So maybe something that he can kind of like gather through scrims. I took that as more of a like he knows how to pilot the champ, but he doesn't know what his job is, or doesn't know how to play the map as well, or whatever. And some of these champs maybe simplify that, right? If you're playing Annie or Galio, it's like your role is much more clearly defined, I think.
One thing I thought was interesting is I saw Zinni's solo queue stats. He's like, I think it was around 1600 LP, and he had like an 88% winner on Galio over a lot of games. So I think it might just be something he's super confident on. But again, I think it just goes to show it's like, hey, maybe we don't give him his best champion for this series. And I think that is something that when playoffs come around, people probably, you start focusing more on your opponent come playoffs, where during the regular season, you're probably just thinking about what do you want to play? Yeah, like what do you want to work on? That sort of stuff. You're not as worried about draft, but we'll see how it goes. I think Shopify, if I was in their position, I would probably still try to branch out a little bit, make sure Zinni has enough stuff that he's not getting just banned out come Fearless BO5s. Because, yeah, I mean, it's great to get into playoffs and whatnot, but if you're just going home first round, it's not a huge difference.
Yeah, because like you're saying, when moving from best of 3 to best of 5, even if your opponents don't decide, hey, we're going to focus on your weakness and we're going to, ban more of Zinni's champions, you're going to get more Fearless. He's going to need more champions anyways if the series does go late. So definitely going to have to work on that. But they did get the win, and it has been working for them here. And they are going to be going up against Dignitas. So I think that I will probably, that one's a banger.
I actually think Dig might win.
It's the Palafox Revenge Part 3 versus Shopify for replacing him with Zinni. And so Dignitas with Dardoch and with some extra time. Dardoch's acquisition was very quick. And so they didn't have a lot of time, playing with him and adapting and changing as well. And one of the biggest things when we were interviewing Dardoch a whole bunch that whole weekend, obviously huge story having him back. By the way, I thought he did extremely well in his interviews, and I was even closely watching after they lost the loser's interview to see is there gonna is there any
I had my popcorn. I was ready to record.
Kobe's with the binoculars and the bushes.
Is there any hint of anger? And there was no hint of. I feel like he has completely sold me in a single weekend. I've been completely sold on the reformation of Dardoch, where all of the tier 2 casters and and players in tier 2, both on his team and against him, were all talking about he's changed so much. He's such a leader and has really grown. And I was completely sold on that with the entire weekend. And
he was Smurf in game 1.
But back
first 20 minutes of game 1. He was so good. Yeah. That was incredible stuff. I don't know how they lost that game. I could not tell you what happened.
They did too, in his own words. And I think he was also quite eloquent on the desk, and succinct in summing it up. He was talking about the 2 biggest issues were the communication that they had was too much discussion of plans within game instead of acting on clear ideas, and them having a reoccurring problem of being able to do what he said was the hard part of the game, was getting the lead in the first place, and then being able to finish the easy part was or doing the hard part was getting the lead, then the easy part was finishing out from that lead, and not having the clear decisiveness to progress the game and end the game with that lead. So I think that with some more time, to your point of you might want to go Dignitas there, I feel like they should look even better this week with the extra week of practice and add some more fuel to this fire of like, people, which side are you on of, Shopify replacing PowerFox with Zinni, even with, people's view previously of that mid lane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on the side that I think. PalFox has like not like he never makes any mistakes, but PalFox this split, I think it's not really debatable. It's looked better than Zinni. I think
summer.
PalFox game ones for sure. PalFox game ones, he's been doing great every game one. I think Denethor has also just played better than I expected him to right off the rip. So I do feel like I'm kind of favoring Dig a little bit. I will say though, it's not always as easy to fix some of these problems as sometimes people make it out, right? I had a discussion with Jonathan, Dingshots' GM, and he was kind of saying, yeah, like Dardoch came in, and before we were kind of like in our scrims just losing all the early games, so we never even really got to like get to the point where you get better at the late game, right? And he's like, well, now Dardoch comes in, he's like, oh, like we're like winning a lot of early games and we're like getting, or we're even in the early game or whatever, and now we have to like figure out the later part of the game.
I didn't think we'd get this far.
Exactly.
What do we do now?
Well, so in game one, I did go back and rewatch it after the game to try to understand what happened, right? They were so ahead for so long, and it was actually one of the classic kind of bottom team things that happened that led to the entire sequence of them losing. So basically it was that play where you remember where Dardoch was in top lane by Krugs and he like went for the kick onto Saint, and Saint flashed it, and then they kind of got ran down. So I thought that was a little weird when I saw it the first time, but when I went back and watched it, FBI was recalling mid, even though he was in condition where he could have been there to fight. And he's playing Jhin. He's playing Doranhelm Jhin. You're not a carry. You're an enabling champion. Why are you recalling there? And if you are recalling there, why is the rest of Dig in their jungle? And so they lost so much control from that one thing alone. And that's just like, it's a complete just like brain off decision that you only really see weak teams make this mistake. Like one guy is recalling while the rest of the team is actively trying to fight. That doesn't make any sense. So that was a huge disconnect. And then right after that, they did this super weird macro thing of like PalFox went top, but then recalled without pushing because he was scared. And then they just all grouped bot side. They literally 5-man bot, saw the opponents were there, and then just left and let them walk to Baron and take it. And I'm sitting there being like, both of those things just come to me are your team does not understand what's happening in the game, because if you're ahead and your grouping is 5, why are you not fighting them? That's the only reason your group is 5 is to fight them. It was just like, they're terrified. We don't know where they are. We have to group and get vision. Oh, hey, we saw him. Okay, cool. We can just, we see him. And that was the end of their plan. And there's like, oh shit, they did Baron. So yeah, that absolutely was some macro problems, but the early game, like Dardoch was absolutely killing it early game.
Yeah. I mean, that lines up a lot with kind of what he was saying where, maybe during these moments, multiple people are saying different ideas and they're like discussing, and then they end up doing the nothing and recalling and losing track of the game. So we'll see if they actually improve. I think I'm still probably gonna predict Shopify, but it is so much closer than it probably than it would have been.
Dardoch on Pros also talked a little bit about it, and he was saying that it's like he's obviously trying to frame positively, but he was saying one of the things is that there's so many voices and so many opinions on like what to do to get better and whatever. He's like, which can be a solution, but is also difficult when everyone has a different idea, right? Like, and he said it himself, I think it was almost verbatim, at some point you have to choose a guy to listen to, right? Like, basically he said that. And I do think it's like, he came in and he said, hey, like I'm joining this team and there's a lot of players here who I know have had success, who I know can be those big players, right? He mentioned, Ignar and FBI and PalFox have all won titles and so on and so forth, right? But if you all are longtime veterans and you all have strong opinions on how to play the game and you all think it should be played differently, then to me that can become very difficult, right? And I know we've heard that about teams with some of these players a number of times in the past, and that was kind of like an issue with PalFox on Shopify, not necessarily on the same page as some of the other players. And I think at a certain point, it's like, then the coach needs to be coming in and dictate like, all right, this person is the leader, this is the way we're going to do it, this is the thing we're going to do. Like someone needs to mediate that, because at a certain point, if people always say this, but it's like, doing the wrong thing together is better than doing the right thing, but separately, right? It just never works. And at a certain point, and especially as you're getting later on in the season, you kind of have to just choose, all right, this guy's going to be our leader. We're just going to listen to his calls, and we just kind of have to go with it.
Yeah, and Dardoch seems like a pretty good candidate for that, honestly, because he's the new guy in the team. He hasn't been there for all of their struggles, and because I do think sometimes when you've just been on a team losing together so much, you just start, I don't know, you lose trust, you lose hope, you just feel like you don't believe in the game plan, even if you guys can all agree to something because you've just seen it fail so many times. But he doesn't have that, so he's got a little bit of a honeymoon phase going on. So hopefully they can get it together because, I mean, it's fun to watch him, right? It's whether he does well or not, it's still exciting.
Yeah, and they did play LYON, so that's the last game that we have to go over, or the last series that we have to go over. Which was a continuation here of the God Armeo, the God Jungler,
undefeated,
the undefeated, coming in here to.
Dude, I loved his interview after the games where they were like, "Does this make you want to come back to pro?" He's like, "No, I'm just getting carried. Like, I really don't want to play pro. This is a reminder." And he's just like, he's playing pretty well, honestly. Obviously he's playing on the best team. You can definitely say he doesn't have to do as much as other people, but he could be doing a lot worse. I think he's holding up great considering the just spot he's coming into like this. And I think it's super funny. He's just completely humble about it. Just like, nope. It's not me. This team's insane, and I don't want to compete. Yeah. Like, respect, man. Respect. Like, he kept it real.
Him and Azael are basically saying the same thing. It's so funny that, like Azael was just talking about how I think it was Shopify's GM was like, no one's spot is safe. Like, everyone needs to prove that they deserve their slot kind of thing, right? And Azael's like, not me. I'm already retired. He's like, I don't care. You can't do anything. I'm already retired. I'm just here for a good time, hanging out, Like, they're definitely on the same page.
I mean, they basically begged Azael, please, we can't find anyone. Come back, join us. So you can't really, like, put pressure or like threaten someone that you begged to join in the first place.
We'll cut you if you don't do this. Hell, I'm fine being cut. Like, I want to be cut.
You're like, are you going to come beg me to join again after you cut me, or like what? No, but I do think it's really cool that Azael did end up joining. For his case, and I think it's cool for Armeo to get kind of this. I don't know. It's like a victory lap kind of for him, kind of like I'm moving on to other things and stuff, but he gets to kind of run the LCS with the top team for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, victory lap. That's a good way to put it, and that is like how he's going now. It's a great way to end, especially just I like the narrative about him and Dardoch running into each other again because they started together, and then here they are just. How many years later? Just so many years, 10-ish, maybe more.
Yeah.
Crazy. So really cool stuff.
So this week, week 4 of the LCS, we're gonna have DSG versus TL, Dig versus Shopify, C9 versus Fly, and LYON versus Sentinel. To me, the two that I think I'm most interested in is C9 versus Fly. That feels like the obvious one, and then Dig versus Shopify because this does feel like an important one for playoff race. Those are the two that I'm kind of most excited about.
Yeah, and because those two teams have changed a decent amount for Shopify and Dignitas. So it's going to be interesting to see where those changes do land with Dig incorporating Denethor and Dardoch and Shopify, their gameplay and the improvements of their players, really kind of changing it. And this question of, are you going to continue to focus on Zinni? But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with, I would go Team Liquid to win for sure. I'll stick with Shopify on the Dig for Shopify. Cloud9 has not lost the FlyQuest, even though that is one of the interesting ones. I think I'll stick with Cloud9 to keep their streak alive, even though they have changed 2 players, and there will for sure be some posts and some drama if they lose and crack their streak. And then I think I'm also sticking with LYON, even whether they have Armeo or whether they get inspired back in time or not.
I think TL and LYON are the ones that we're probably all agreed on. I feel like I'm gonna go Dig. I think that Palafox to me has been playing well enough that I actually see it as a significant advantage in mid lane, especially Zinni. I just do not think has been playing that well. And while some teams are going to look past towards playoffs, I do not think Dignitas should be looking past Shopify, and I would expect them to come in with like a real draft plan to try to punish Zinni, because I feel like he is kind of an obvious weakness, and Palafox I think has been playing well.
Oh yeah, I mean, if the team does not want a draft plan to punish Zinni, Palafox for sure is going to want to anyways. Every time you play against the guy that replaced you on the team that kicked you off, it doesn't matter, what else is going on, but I think he's definitely going to look to win those individual matchups for sure.
A motivated Palafox is a threat. We've seen it a lot over the years. Even in times where he's not playing great, he could still have games where it shows. So I'm actually going to also go with Dig here, because I think, like you said, I think it looks so good against LYON. They were just destroying LYON in the beginning of the first game, and it just seems like they genuinely don't know what to do because they've been losing for so long. And I think with someone new coming in who can shed perspective, because Dardoch, I'm sure he understands the game well enough. Like, they could look at that VOD and see what went wrong and know what normal macro play looks like. So I think you just need a clear direction and some confidence, which I think I assume
they'll choose.
That's what they're getting from Dardoch coming in.
Yeah, with the next.
Yeah, and so I expect Dig to improve a lot coming up, and yeah, I think they should be better.
C9 or Fly.
C9 or Fly. That is tough. I think I will say C9 on this one, because I think I've bet on Fly the last 2 times. Granted, it was against LYON and TL, which were really hard opponents, but I think that Fly's not looking as strong as they have before. Hey, honestly, it could have just been their opponents. Maybe they're getting like the short end of the stick with the schedule so far, but I just think that Fly does really well against teams where they can out lane their opponents. I think that Gakkos and their bot lane especially are really, really good at playing their winning matchups. But when you're up against a team who also has good laners, who might have a bit more synergy than you, they can struggle. And I think that sometimes they don't look as connected, especially with Gryffinn. Like, they can be at different pages and stuff like that. So I would say C9, but not by a big margin.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I feel like my head is saying C9, but my heart is kind of still feeling that FlyQuest might win. And I'm just not sure if I'm over-indexing too much into thinking, because in my head, TL and LYON are just so far better than everyone else right now that it feels like I almost can't count those when judging against how they're going to do against a different team.
It's true.
And C9, I think, has had more convincing games, but they've also had worse opponents. And they did drop a game to both Disguise and Dig. FlyQuest 2-0 Disguise, they did have that close game 1, but they were pretty dominant in the other one. I feel like I might go slightly FlyQuest. I just think that C9 and Fly both are kind of struggling with some similar issues, where I feel like they have like a lot of talented players, they have good mechanics, they have a lot of things working for them, but I think that sometimes they don't have that like calming voice where they go too far, like they overchase, they overplay, and they make these mistakes that really, really punish them. So I think it's going to be a series where it's going to be pretty bloody. Like, I don't expect it to be one team gets a slight early lead and then just kind of like controls it and stomped it. I think it is going to be pretty back and forth, and I do think in those kind of chaotic games that FlyQuest has a better chance than they do against, a TL or a LYON. Because we think back to, even Split 1, there was so much of the discussion about FlyQuest was that they're winning because they are so good in team fights, because of their individual mechanics, and that they, as a result, kind of thrive in some of those chaotic games. So I think it could be a series where it maybe kind of works in their favor a bit.
It could honestly depend on if Loki picks Rise as well. That could influence the outcome quite a bit.
It could. That's one. This FlyQuest already starting with the 1-0 lead.
I mean, maybe.
Changing your predictions?
Maybe. I'm just saying. It could
I'm going to hold it down for Cloud9.
Even if they go Rise?
Yep.
Okay.
And now is the time. Nobody beats Loki's Rise 10 times in a row.
Okay. Or maybe they do. We'll find out.
Maybe they do.
We'll find out this weekend. That'll wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So you don't miss episodes of The Dive. Also leave a comment. And we will see you for week 4. It's going to be fun. LCS returns this Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific. DSG versus TL. We will see you there.
Is Corki boring?
Yes.
Is Sivir boringer?